Hello, it's Rebecca and today is another book review day and this is my 20th? I don't know, I'm going to stop counting now, it's too many. This is another book that I have been reading for the 2015 reading challenge. I will put a little link down below in the description box to explain what the challenge is all about, but basically you just have to read 52 books over a year with each book coming from a different category. And the book that I've been reading this week comes from the category of a book that scares you. Now, it's quite difficult to choose a book that scares you until you've actually read the book. So the book that I've chosen came up on top of pretty much every Google search that I did for frightening or scary books. So the book that I've been reading is The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. So I will read you the blurb and then talk to you about the book. Prepare to be afraid. The terror begins quietly. Noises in the child's room, an odd smell, the displacement of furniture, an icy chill. Easy explanations are offered. Then frightening changes are seen in the 11-year-old girl. Medical tests shed no light on her symptoms, but it's as if a different personality has invaded the child's body. A Jesuit priest is called in. Is it possible that a demonic presence is within the child? Exorcism seems to be the only answer, but do they know what powerful force they are about to unleash? So, on the front of this book, you might not even be able to see it, but here it reads, the most terrifying novel ever written. I can't agree. And I don't know whether or not it's because we have become desensitised to so many things, with horror films being thrown at us all the time, frightening things on the television, frightening things actually going on in the world that we see in the news every day. When I was little, I used to read the Point horror books, and I'm sure quite a few people also read those, and they terrified the goodness out of me. Oh my goodness, I used to read them before bed and wish I hadn't because I couldn't sleep and I'd have nightmares. And they genuinely terrified me to the point that I had to sleep with my bedroom light on. And I know as a child, and your imagination runs wild, and I was really hoping for something like that when reading this book. And I don't know whether or not it's because I've seen the film that I knew what was going to happen, or whether or not it's a story of its time. I don't know. I can't really explain why it wasn't frightening. And I do think it's down to being desensitised. So although this category is a book that frightens you, I think I'm going to change it to a book that should frighten you, but it kind of didn't. But like I say, it's difficult to know what frightens you until you read it. So if you haven't seen the film or read the book, basically there's a mother and a daughter. Chris is the mother and her daughter Regan. And Chris is an actress, and she shares her home, obviously, with her daughter, two servants. Well, not servants, but people that do the cleaning and the fixing of things and the shopping, and a personal assistant who deals with all the paperwork. And it starts off slowly. Chris hears strange noises and she thinks it might be rats or animals in the attic. And then in her daughter's room, things start to go missing. Huge furniture is moved, like huge chests of drawers, wardrobes, they move. And she can't work out what's going on. And then it kind of builds up where there's a horrible smell in her daughter's room and her daughter starts behaving strangely. And I will say, I should have said this right at the beginning, only read this book if you are over 18. There are a lot of naughty swear words in here and scenes that are very disgusting. They're not for children's eyes or ears, these scenes. You have to be an adult to fully understand what's going on. I won't say what they are, but just so you know, please be an adult. I don't want to advise children to read this book because not just the subject matter, but there are certain things that take place that are quite horrific. So these strange things start happening, and her daughter Regan is behaving a bit strangely, and she takes her to the doctor, as you would, and she has brain scans, she has blood tests, she has all these things done to her, and nothing can be found. She's perfectly healthy according to the doctors. But she then starts doing really horrible things, disgusting things. She starts speaking in languages that her mother doesn't recognise, and it's all just very, very strange. There's one bit that actually did creep me out a bit, and if you have seen the film, I think it's because I've seen the film that I was a bit freaked out. Regan comes down the stairs and her body is contorted so that she's coming down backwards with her arms like this. So rather than kind of coming down on her hands and knees, she's coming down like that, but her body is really contorted. And just the way that she kind of creeps up and is there, that's a little bit of a horrible moment. But it doesn't freak me out. The rest of the story doesn't freak me out as much as I thought it would, and as it did in the film. The film is so visual, and as you know, I don't like comparing books to films, but the film is so visual, and the visuals aren't really conveyed as much through the book. The descriptions of things that are happening didn't conjure up anything different for me. The girl's behaving strangely. She's being given medicine. And then Chris, her mum, thinks that she may be possessed by a demon. And she calls a priest to come and check her out. And the actual exorcism doesn't take place until about the last 50 pages of the book. It is a bit slow in places. We don't experience as much of Regan's strangeness as I think we possibly should have. As I've said with some other books, sometimes books read as though a publisher or an agent has said to them, we just need an extra 100 pages in the middle, just write something. And it doesn't always flow. And it feels like that with this book, that things are kind of happening that aren't necessary, that don't really need to happen. And I think it would have been more exciting and more intense to experience more of Regan and her behaviours. But that's just the way the book's written. And I would recommend this, but, and I don't know whether or not it is just this specific publication or if different publishing houses have published this book, but I think the most frightening thing about this book is the amount of typos, grammatical mistakes, punctuation mistakes that have slipped through the editing process. And I know things slip through, and they have with my books, and I've read other books where there's been an odd typo. But this one has so many that I'm not sure anyone actually read it before it got sent to the printers. Because I was reading things and I was like, I don't know what that means. And I'm thinking, is this a word that I have never come across before? And when you read on, you kind of have to manipulate the typo and the spelling mistake into what the actual word should be. So unfortunately, that was the most frightening thing, that this was allowed to be published without a full editing process taking place. Fairly easy read, read it in a week. I'm a slow reader. Not frightening, or not frightening for me. Maybe I should have read another point horror book. Perhaps that may have frightened me a little bit more. But still, a fairly decent read. If you haven't seen the film, you may enjoy it a bit more than I did. And again, with the film, that's also quite dated. Some of the special effects that take place in the film, we laugh at now. The pea soup and the spinning head, they're not particularly frightening. So perhaps it's a dated story, perhaps it's a dated theme. I don't know. But a little bit frightening, a little bit scary, but not to the point that I couldn't sleep. So read it if you want, but yeah, it's not one of the best books that I've read, I'm afraid. So if you would like to hear any of my other book reviews, then please subscribe to my channel. I put new videos out every time I've read a book. I occasionally give writing advice and talk about my own writing. So if you're interested in reading and or writing, then please subscribe to my channel. And I will see you soon. Have a good day. Bye-bye.